suits are now also their primary breathing device. So the spacesuit acts as an extension of the capsule itself. The crews have their spacesuits on, their visors down and in the locked position, but they are plugged in using an umbilical to their seat, which provides telemetry and communications and air. So right now we are flowing nitrox, which is nitrogen oxygen mixture, through the suits, and not only does it allow them to breathe, but it also keeps them cool. So it's a cool nitrox mixture, and really ultimately just intended to keep them comfortable and obviously safe.
And so at this point, we've moved past waypoint 2, and we heard a bunch of the comms up to that crew. So we were given the final go for docking. And so right now, we should just be about 4 minutes away or so. And we don't have video at the moment. We're in kind of a period where we're waiting to reacquire contact with our TDRS, our tracking data and relay satellites, to get that live video back. We should get it back within the next 2 minutes or so, so we should have those views of docking. We promise we're not just showing you us because we want to. As soon as we get views of that Dragon again for that final approach, we'll be bringing it to you. We should be just about 3.5 minutes, a little bit more, from docking. As you heard, we're going to hear a call out for crew hands-off point. They'll just call up CHOP. And that, as Kate said, that just telling the crew they are not to send any commands to abort. At that point, any abort commands will come automatically from Dragon's flight computer. So we're in our final approach. We're just about 15 meters away from the space station. Should be docking in just about 3 minutes from now. So we've continued to get further and further ahead on our timeline. I think we were looking at about a 5:15 p.m. Pacific docking. Now we're looking to do that almost 45 minutes early.
Yeah, which is great. You know, the crew lifted off from Kennedy Space Center, pad 39A at 12:52 a.m. this morning, and so it's been a pretty busy day for them. As I've said before, they did go through a sleep phase, which you know, was 8 hours, where they had the ability, or rather the time to sleep. Whether or not they were able to get to sleep, I hope so. But there's about an hour before that crew sleep period called pre-sleep, and then there's about an hour after the sleep period called post-sleep. And it's, you know, just an opportunity for them to wind down, but then also wind back up in preparation for you know, all the activities that we've had today and still have upcoming. As Dan said, we're just a couple minutes early.
SpaceX copies 10 meters.
We are less than 10 meters away, so just about 2 minutes from docking. And so might be right on the edge of getting that video signal back, but the teams, and we're still getting telemetry, so we'll be able to know when that docking has occurred, and hopefully we'll get our our high data rate communication back soon and be able to bring that live video. But they're closing in. We're just 8 meters away now, about 1.5 minutes from docking. We'll hear that call out for CHOP come about 20 to 30 seconds before that initial contact, which again is that soft capture ring on Dragon's docking mechanism, interfacing with the international docking adapter on board the space station. We're driving in towards the zenith port, the space-facing port on node 2, and we've got just 6 meters to go.
Again, Dragon is driving itself at this point in time, so hopefully when we get our views back, we'll be able to show you. And there we just heard the call.
SpaceX copies 5 meters.
5 meters away from that that initial contact point.
And we're under 1 minute away from docking. All right. Coming up on 3 meters and closing. 2.5 meters away, docking in about 30 seconds.
Copy, 2 meters.
One meter and closing. heard confirmation.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, contact and soft capture complete, attenuation in progress.
And confirmation, soft capture and docking confirmed. That time, 4:37 p.m. Pacific, 11:37 GMT, with the International Space Station flying 261 statute miles over the central Pacific Ocean. And there we got it.
That's a gorgeous view. Now, of course, there are still a few steps that we have to complete before Dragon is securely attached to station.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, soft capture ring retraction is in progress.
There's our first full view of Dragon. Dragon Freedom attached to the International Space Station. Up next, we are going to begin the hard capture sequence. That's essentially when we are engaging the hooks around the docking mechanism.
Well, unfortunately, we did have that video cut out right at that moment of docking, but it's great to see it attached now. Again, that initial contact, that docking time, 4:37 p.m. Pacific, 11:37 GMT, with Dragon and Station flying 261 miles over the central part of the Pacific Ocean. And we heard the retraction of the docking ring is underway, so slowly see Dragon inch a little bit closer to the docking adapter, and then we can kick off that hard capture sequence. All told, it'll take about 10 minutes for everything to finish after we've, completed that initial soft capture. We'll get those 12 docking hooks engaged, basically doing them two sets, one set of 6 at a time, after which we'll have hard mate, and then all of the post-docking configs can get put into work, including umbilicals, and then the crew's starting to step through all of their post-docking, crew on board Dragon getting out of their suits, and the crew on board station getting ready to go through the hatch operations.
So with this view here, we are able to see those Draco thrusters that we saw in action quite a bit throughout the approach maneuvers. Well, the Dragon capsule to me is upside down, but for the orientation that it's in, right there, kind of in the center of the pressurized section, that shiny bright white area, we see 3 ports that are kind of like ovals. There are 4 clusters with 3 ports all around the base or the service structure of Dragon, and those are those service structure Draco thrusters that we utilize for that precise maneuvering as the Dragon approaches the International Space Station. I believe you can also identify that green light that we were talking about. So there's a green one and a red one indicating what side is port, which side is starboard. Don't ask me which one is which. I don't like deep water, so I'm not really ever to be on a boat. But yeah, the green light there you can see on the left-hand side of Dragon.
Yeah, thanks to a quick refresher, port's the left side, starboard's the right side.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, ring retraction complete, docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
Okay, so the soft capture ring has drawn in. Now, before we start to engage those hooks, we're going to do another reconfig of the MCS. That's the motion control system on board station. During the approach and initial contact, we're under all of our attitude controls being done by thrusters on the Russian segment. We do that with any approaching visiting vehicle. Now that docking has occurred, we're going to hand over control back to the U.S. gyroscopes, which do our nominal or just our normal day-to-day attitude control. And so that puts station in a much more kind of quiescent. It won't be able to make any rapid adjustments, which could interfere with the driving of those hooks. So as soon as the station teams have confirmed that we've handed over attitude control over to the U.S. system, they'll be able to start driving in those 12 hooks to secure Dragon in place.
Fun little fact.
Station Houston on the big loop, MCS configured, proceeding with hook driving. Station copies.
We were talking about the red light and the green light. John Innsbrucker just sent me an IM, and he's a very wisdom-filled person. He says port has 4 letters, as does left, and I will never forget which side is port now. So thanks, John I. Once again, we can see that Dragon Freedom has made initial contact there with the International Space Station. Just a gorgeous view there.
And again, we've had confirmation that soft capture rings retracted. Again, just standing by, we heard that the MCS handover, the motion control system on stations occurred, and now it's going to be time for the those hard capture rings to start engaging again. There's 12 of them total. The first 6 have started to drive. They're done in 2 gangs of 6 each. This is the second time in this Dragon flight that we've done something with these hooks. 6 of these are engaged during the launch and ascent portion, holding the nose cone in place, which you can see is open and swung out to the right there of the international docking adapter. Those drive open and release the nose cone shortly after Dragon gets on orbit. And now 6 of those driving to do our initial gang of hooks to start that hard mate process. And then once they're in place, the second 6 will drive, and we'll have a hard mate of Dragon to the space station.
For those of you that might be wondering, excuse me, what the half black and half white part of Dragon is, that is the unpressurized section known as the trunk. The side that is black, that's actually covered in solar panels. So that is what the Dragon capsule utilizes while on orbit and making its way to the space station, essentially to provide power, generate power. So we only have them on one side of the trunk, and the other side of the trunk is just painted white. You can sorry, I was just going to say you can just barely make out the heat shield there at the bottom of the pressurized section, just above the unpressurized section. So.
Yeah, and we just heard that the first set of 6 hooks have engaged. And so now the second are driving.
Once again, this is the hard capture, which is basically the final capture of the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station.
Yeah, so once that second set of hooks are driving, we'll get confirmation of a hard mate, and then we jump right into the hatch operations, and the crew on board Dragon will get the go to get out of their seats, out of their suits, and start be free to move about the cabin, essentially, and start getting ready to open up the hatches. They'll hook their suits up to fans to dry them out before they get stowed, and then they'll have a couple of different tasks to do after we get the hatches open in Dragon to just get it ready for that docked operations. And a lot of it's focused on the atmospheric control onboard Dragon. They're going to be removing what's called a LiO canister, a lithium hydroxide canister that is used to scrub CO2 from the Dragon cabin during free flight. They'll remove that and seal it, as we're going to be essentially integrating Dragon's cabin with the rest of the space station. And so not only will Dragon be able to use station power, station data, and communications, but will flow air from the station stack into Dragon and integrate it with all of its life support systems, generating oxygen, scrubbing carbon dioxide while it's attached. And we are hearing that the second set of hooks are closed, and we'll stand by.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, 12 good hooks, hard capture complete.
There on your screen, is SpaceX Core Crew Operations and Resources Engineer, Jake Vendel. The core acts as the primary communication point from the Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne to the crew on board Dragon. All right, so now that Dragon has completed the docking sequence, the spacecraft must undergo a handful of checks before we will be able to open the hatch. The crew on board Dragon will now get a chance to get out of their suits before moving into hatch operations.
That's right, and things are going to be picking up on Station 2. NASA's Tom Marshburn is going to be the lead for all of the hatch operations on the station side. First, he's going to have to open up a hatch to gain access to the pressurized mating adapter and the docking adapter, and then he's going to start pressurizing that vestibule, that small space between the two. So we've got confirmation hard captures complete, and now we're ready to get into those hatch operations. One more time, if you missed it, docking occurred at 4:37 and 49 seconds. Pacific time, that's 11:37 and 49 seconds GMT, while both vehicles were flying 261 statute miles over the Central Pacific. Now, with Dragon firmly attached, we're going to toss it over to the International Space Station Flight Control Room in Houston for Shaniqua Vereen to take us through the next steps as we get ready to open up the hatches. Shaniqua?
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Hawthorne, for your help today. We had a very exciting moment here in Mission Control Houston as well, following Dragon's docking at 6:37 p.m. Central Time while flying 261 statute miles over the central part of the Pacific Ocean. It's great to see Dragon docked. The energy in the room here is high. There was applause and smiles all around the room. Now that we're docked, like Dan mentioned, Tom Marshburn is securing some hardware and then moving right into hatch operations. First, we'll get the large hatch at Node 2 Zenith, giving them access inside the pressurized mating adapter. Then we'll have to pressurize the vestibule. And that was Core Jake Vendel in MCCX, SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne, California, giving the crew good words inside Dragon Freedom. Again, now that they are docked, Tom Washburn inside the station is securing some hardware and then moving right into hatch operations. First,
Dragon
we'll open the
SpaceX on Dragon to ground. No response required. Cameras are external.
We're currently in between satellites, and you're now seeing a live view inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Once we have views
Dragon
back.
SpaceX on Dragon to ground. No response required. For your awareness, we'll be clearing the RGPS-1 alert shortly.
And Freedom copies. Thank you.
SpaceX Freedom on the cabin mic, com check.
Freedom SpaceX on Dragon to ground. I had you 5x5 on the cabin mic.
Copy, thanks.
If you're just joining us, we have live coverage as we just watched as Crew Dragon Freedom docked to the International Space Station at 6:37 p.m. Central Time while flying 261 statute miles over the central part of the Pacific Ocean. Now that Dragon is docked, Tom Washburn, as well as the rest of his crew, is securing some hardware and then moving right into the hatch operations. First, he will open the large hatch at Node 2 Zenith, giving them access inside the pressurized mating adapter. Then we'll have to pressurize the vestibule, which is that small space between the hatches on Dragon and the space station. This was previously exposed to vacuum prior to docking, and we will need to fill it with air and make sure its pressure is nearly equal with the atmospheric pressures on Dragon and the station. Washburn will use a small valve on the station's hatch to slowly introduce air into the vestibule. Flight controllers here in Houston will monitor the pressure and the temperature readings inside and verify that everything is leak-free before we get ready to open up the hatches. We expect this to take about 2 hours to get everything pressurized and checked out before we open the hatches. With Dragon's hatch currently targeted to open a little bit after 8 p.m. Central Time. Following hatch open, the crew will configure Dragon for an on-orbit ops and get a safety briefing. A few hours after that, Russian cosmonauts will wake up to begin their day, which will include a spacewalk. They will also have welcoming remarks with the Crew-4 astronauts.
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground. ISS crew has begun vestibule pressurization. Feel free to reference 4.400 section 4 for telemetry if you'd like.
And Freedom copies, that's in work.
You're currently seeing inside the International Space Station as Tom Marshburn and Kayla Barron are preparing the area for the crew to ingress the space station. They're currently removing baggage and stowage area out of the way so there's more room for the crew to float through. And clarification, that was Rasha Chari and Kayla Barron removing stowage to prepare for the crew to float through once the hatch is open. Now docked, Tom Marshburn, current station commander, is now securing some hardware and moving into the hatch operations. You saw other crew members just removing stowage from the area, preparing for it to give them access to inside the pressurized mating adapter. They'll then be able to pressurize the vestibule, that space between the hatches on Dragon and the space station. This was previously exposed to vacuum prior to docking.
SpaceX on the big loop. ISS power connection established.
Freedom copies.
With the earlier docking time, we also expect the hatch to open just as early, around the 8 p.m. time frame Central Time. It takes about 2 hours to get everything pressurized and checked out before we open the hatches between Dragon and the station. Following hatch open, there typically would be a welcome ceremony. However, the crew will be awaiting the Russian cosmonauts to awake and have welcome remarks with the rest of the other 4 crew members. Crew-4 will join them and make a complement of 11 astronauts doing welcoming remarks. That'll happen around 1:40 a.m. Central Time. Currently on station is Crew-3 astronauts. That's astronauts Kayla Barron, Rasha Chari, Tom Marshburn, ESA or European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer. Also aboard the space station is Russian cosmonauts Sergei Korsakov, Oleg Artemyev, and Denis Matveyev. Currently on your screen is NASA astronaut Kayla Barron going through a stowage bag. Dragon is currently in repress, about 5 more minutes on the leak checks, and about 45 minutes after that, we are looking for the hatch to open right around that 8 p.m. Central Time frame. If you're just joining us, we have live mission coverage of NASA's SpaceX Crew-4 mission to the International Space Station, where they'll stay for a 6-month rotational mission. Dragon has officially docked to the station around 6:37 p.m. Central Time, and we're now awaiting repress of repress and pressurization of the vestibule between the space station and the Dragon Freedom capsule. Flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston are monitoring the pressure and temperature readings inside and verifying that nothing's leaking before we get ready to open up the hatches. We're expecting it to take another 45 minutes to get everything pressurized and checked out before we open the hatches up for Dragon and the station, currently targeted to open up around 8 p.m. Central Time. Following hatch open, we'll see the Crew-4 crew, along with the other 7 astronauts on board the station, eagerly awaiting to greet their new crewmates. Post hatch open, that will end our coverage today, but we'll actually come back on air around 1:40 a.m. Central Time to see the crew welcome remarks, where Crew 3 astronauts, NASA astronauts Kayla Barron, Rasha Chari, Tom Marshburn, ESA astronaut Matthias Maurer, and Russian cosmonauts Sergei Korsakov, Oleg Artemyev, and Denis Matveyev all greet and welcome each other aboard. You're currently seeing live views inside the International Space Station in the Harmony module, where Kayla Barron, in your bottom left-hand corner, is beginning to do some preparations, or continuing preparations for the arrival for Crew-4. They docked at the International Space Station at 6:37 p.m. Central Time while flying 261 statute miles above the Central Pacific Ocean.
Dragon, SpaceX on Dragon to ground for status.
And SpaceX from Freedom, we've got 4 of us out of the suits. We are continuing through the 2 procedures, 4.012 and 4.400, and you are welcome to come back on board if you want.
Okay, copy all, Farmer. Thanks for the update. A quick update for you. We're seeing indications of a good vestibule leak check. Stand by for more. And we'll bring the cameras back on board.
Okay, copy that. And for your awareness, we're about 12 minutes into the suit dry cycle.
Copy, 12 minutes.
You just heard calls from the core, or the Crew Operations Resource Engineer at SpaceX, into the Crew Dragon Freedom, telling the crew about a good vestibule check. And the crew reported back that they have doffed their suits, or taken off their suits, and they are preparing for hatch open as well, running through some checks on their side before the hatches can be opened.
Dragon, SpaceX on Dragon to ground. Cameras are back on board. We see Jessica's glove.
Copy that. Welcome back.
You're back seeing live views inside Crew Dragon Freedom. You currently see a couple empty suits still in the chairs as the crew are continuing to do preparations to open the hatch and ingress the International Space Station. We're looking for that ingress to happen around 30 minutes from now.
Dragon and Houston on the ground 2 on the big loop.
Station's listening on the big loop.
And Freedom's ready on the big loop.
Houston is reconfiguring for hardline comm during this next 5 minutes. You will be down vehicle to vehicle. You'll still have Dragon to ground and space to ground.
Station copies.
Freedom copies.
And that was Capcom Alex Kanalinkos here in Mission Control Houston, relaying to the Dragon crew aboard Freedom that their comm to comm for station to Dragon will be down about 5 minutes, but they'd still have connection through space to ground and Dragon to ground to Mission Control Houston. And that's astronaut Kayla Barron running through her procedures and checklists on her iPad, Velcroed to her leg as she's running through procedures to continue preparations for Crew-4's arrival and ingress out of the Dragon into the International Space Station.
Station and Dragon, Houston on the big loop. We are ready for
vehicle-to-vehicle voice checks on hardline.
And station copies on 2, Freedom, how do you hear on the big loop? Disregard 2.
And Freedom on the big loop is ready for voice checks. And Freedom's ready for voice checks on the big loop.
And Houston, Freedom, we have you loud and clear on station.
And Station Freedom has you loud and clear also.
Houston copies. Good voice checks.
SpaceX Freedom for inventory.
Freedom SpaceX on Dragon to ground, ready to copy. Okay, Jessica, to read back, 2 meals from 309, 2 meals from 301, 5 water bottles from 208, and the rest of the meals are per the packing plan.
That's a good readback.
Okay, copy all. Thanks for the report. I want to clarify, does that include the morning meal inventory from a few hours ago?
Affirm. The meals in 309 and 301 were our breakfast this morning, and we haven't consumed any food since.
Okay, copy all. Thanks for the clarification. Sounds good.
We're currently in a brief handover between satellites. You're currently seeing a live view inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room, but we'll get views of Dragon and inside the space station back to you shortly.
Dragon, SpaceX on Dragon to ground for 4.400.
And go for freedom.
Okay, Freedom, we expect that the ISS side is close to ready for hatch open. We're hoping you can step into section 5 of 4.400 for the waste system flush, and we will stand by for a report on which water bottle you intend to use for that task.
Okay, Freedom copies the status. We have water bottles set aside from bag 208 that are already accounted. They were partially used before. We're going to use those for the waste flush.
Okay, copy all. Thanks for the clarification. Sounds good.
For those of you just joining us, Crew-4 NASA astronauts Chell Lindgren, Bob Hines, and Jessica Watkins, and European Space Agency astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti had a successful launch this morning around 2:52 a.m. Central Time from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We saw Crew-4 on Dragon Freedom dock to the International Space Station at 6:37 p.m. Central Time. We're looking for them to open hatches to let the crew ingress in just about 18 minutes from now. That's 8 p.m. Central Time. We're looking for the crew to be able to ingress, to open hatches and ingress into the International Space Station. We're in a brief handover period currently between satellites, and we'll have views of Dragon and the International Space Station back shortly. You are currently seeing a live view of the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston, Texas, where Flight Director Adi Bulos saw us through integrated operations as well as docking. To his right, you see Alex Kanalenkos, the Capcom or the capsule communicator, who you'll hear talking to the crew from the ground up to the station.
Houston Dragon Station, we are ready for hatch equalization.
And Dragon copies, we're ready.
Station Houston on the big loop. We need about 3 to 4 minutes to finish equalization.
Station copies.
And Tom, just clarification on that. Your go to equalize, it will take 3 to 4 minutes.
Copy, go to equalize, and it'll take 3 to 4 minutes.
And you're getting live views of Mission Control Houston, where flight controllers here are looking after the International Space Station, which Freedom Dragon just docked to around 6:37 p.m. Central Time. You just heard Capcom here in Mission Control Houston confirm with the crew that equalization is ready to start between ISS and Freedom. He also let the crew know that it would take about 3 to 4 minutes for that to continue, and verify that the hatch is good to be open between the station and Freedom. Earlier, we did hear a call to the crew saying that the ISS side is close to ready for hatch to open, and that the system flush was needed on the SpaceX Dragon side. Again, the clock has started from Freedom to the International Space Station for equalization. It's in progress, and we're looking for 3 or 4 minutes before that is complete. Again, we are between satellites and currently in a loss of signal, which is expected at this time. And so we're waiting on views to return from Dragon and the International Space Station. As we wait, we are in the middle of a timer as equalization is underway. And that's waiting on pressurization to equalize between Freedom and the space station before the hatch can be opened. Again, we're in the middle of pressurization to equalize pressure between Freedom and the space station.
SpaceX, ready to copy on Dragon to ground.
Okay,
please take the cameras external. We're going to be changing into our phone suits.
Okay, copy all, Chell. We'll take the cameras external, get right back to you. Freedom SpaceX, cameras are external.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 3, no response required. We see in the video, just letting you know that we're reconfiguring the potable water source, so you may hear some valve movement. Copy, thumbs up.
And that was thumbs up from the crew as they heard from Capcom. And we have good equalization on the ISS and between Dragon and the ISS. As soon as the space craft Crew Dragon Freedom is ready, I'm told that we are ready to have hatch open just here shortly. Again, we're looking for that to happen around 8 p.m. Central Time.
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground for next steps.
Freedom's ready, copy.
All right, Freedom, the ISS is ready. Ground teams are also ready for Dragon hatch opening on your go. Sorry, you have a go to open the forward hatch. And then contact us per step 6.6 of 4.400.
Okay, copy. It's going to take us about 5 to 10 more minutes.
Okay, copy all.
And you just heard from the Crew Operations Resource Engineer, or CORE at SpaceX, telling Crew Dragon, the crew aboard Dragon, that they are ready to open the hatch as soon as they are ready. The crew did report they need about 5 to 10 more minutes before they're ready to open. But that's great news to hear that we are ready here shortly, around 8 p.m. Central Time, to open the hatch. Again, preparations continuing on both sides.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 3 for Kayla. Notice in your, just above and to your right, there's a CPA cable sticking out. If you can tuck that back in, just so, yes, that right there, so it doesn't get snagged. Thank you so much.
And you just heard Capcom Alex Kanalenkos giving a few checks left to the crew inside the International Space Station to prepare for the ingress of Crew-4. As you can see, preparations are still continuing between the ISS and on Crew Dragon Freedom. The Crew-4 astronauts are getting things configured and will join the 7-person crew on station, bringing the total crew members on station to 11. You currently see a view of all 4 Crew 3 members, while the 3 Russian cosmonauts sleep. We will be back on air after hatch opening around 1:40 a.m. and all 11 crew members will be awake for welcoming remarks. If you're just joining us, you're looking live inside the International Space Station as the crew aboard prepare for the ingress of Crew-4, which docked to the International Space Station's Zenith port on the Harmony module at 6:37 p.m. Central Time. Pressurization and equalization has happened, and we are waiting for the SpaceX Crew Dragon Freedom crew members to open their hatch and ingress the International Space Station. With about a 15 or 16-hour rendezvous to docking, this was one of the fastest, if not the fastest, commercial crew flights to the International Space Station. If you're just joining us, you're watching a live broadcast for the Crew-4 mission, which had a successful launch at 2:52 a.m. Central Time and docked to the space station at 6:37 p.m. Central today. Now we're just waiting for the crew to open the hatch and ingress or come aboard the space station, which will happen shortly. The crew on board station you see on the screen is NASA astronaut Kayla Barron and Rasha Chari. They're eagerly awaiting the Crew-4 astronauts to come aboard.
Station, this is Freedom on Big Loop. We are ready for hatch opening.
Freedom SpaceX on the Big Loop, go for hatch opening.
Station copies.
Dragon SpaceX on the Big Loop, hoping to bring cameras on board.
Please come aboard.
And you just heard a few checks from the Crew Operations Resource Engineer, or the CORE, at SpaceX. Great news with that go for hatch opening. And we do have a go for hatch open, but we are waiting on the crew inside Dragon to finish some preparations and open the hatch. After the hatch is open, it probably will take another few minutes for the crew to ingress the space station and be welcomed to their new home for the next 6 months as a part of the Expedition 67 crew. They will continue to walk through some procedures as they ingress, before ingressing the International Space Station. They are looking to install IMV ducting, mixing the air of the space station environment with the air inside the Crew Dragon Freedom. They'll seal some of the IO, or lithium hydroxide cartridges that scrubbed carbon dioxide inside the Dragon capsule on the ride to the International Space Station. They'll check some vent valves as well, so they may be just a little bit more time until we welcome them on board. And Dragon hatch is open, and they are welcoming the Crew-4 astronauts on board. You see all smiles around as Jessica Watkins, Bob Hines, Samantha Cristoforetti have ingressed and are hugging all their current Crew-3 crew members. And last one in, we see Commander of Dragon, Kjell Lindgren, now entering into the International Space Station. You're currently looking at all 8 crew members of Crew 3 and 4 together inside the Harmony module, welcoming the new crew aboard. Crew 3 and Crew 4 will do what's called a direct handover. For the next 5 days, there'll be 2 Dragons docked to the International Space Station. Crew 3 currently set to undock in just about 5 days from now.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 3, no response required. Just letting you know, PWD is going to be down 10 to 15 minutes. Sorry for the timing, but... And Kjell, I'll owe you a beverage when you come back home.
Houston Station IMV duct installation is complete. Go for IMV fan activation.
Houston copies.
Altitude. 1 minute 55 seconds, Challenger 21.
Wow, what an incredible morning. It is so great to see Crew-4 astronauts finally on board the International Space Station after about a 15-hour flight. The crew is now aboard and ready to continue their 6-month rotational mission aboard the International Space Station. They were welcomed by the current space station crew members of Crew-3. The full complement, now up to 11 human beings as a part of the Expedition 67 crew. It's been an incredible 24 hours, and with Crew-4 now aboard the International Space Station. That's it for us in Houston. Welcome aboard, Crew-4. Now let's turn it over to Hawthorne.
Thanks, Shaniqua. So great to see Crew-4 on board. As she said, it's been quite a 24 hours. We had everything kicked off really with suit up. That was actually yesterday around 11:50 p.m. Eastern time. And then later on, a couple hours later, we saw the crew ingress into Dragon Freedom. That was around 1:17 a.m. Eastern. And then, of course, we had an on-time liftoff from Kennedy Space Center Pad 39A at 3:52 a.m. Eastern this morning. That was followed by a stage 1 landing on our drone ship, a successful Dragon separation, as well as deployment of the nose cone, which we saw in action on our webcasts. And then if you joined us earlier this afternoon, you saw the 5 major burns that Dragon performed as it approached the International Space Station. We were able to confirm docking at 7:37 p.m. Eastern, and then we just saw ingress into station just a couple minutes ago. So super exciting. On behalf of SpaceX and NASA, I want to thank you for watching today's webcast and for your interest in this exciting 4th rotational mission.
Yeah, and now that the crew's on board, they've got a couple of tasks to go through. Shaniqua was talking about they're going to be integrating Dragon's cabin with that on board the station, on the ride uphill. Dragon has its own ECLS, environmental control and life support system, regulating temperature, humidity control, scrubbing CO2, and that temperature, by the way, can be actively controlled by the astronauts on the displays or changed by the team here in Mission Control Hawthorne. And so they have to install that IMV ducting. We heard that done, the intermodular ventilation, integrate Dragon's cabin atmosphere with the rest of the station. They're also installing some seals around the hatchway around Dragon and a hatch cover as well. And with them arrived, we're less than a week away now from the return of Crew-3. So pretty much everything we just saw, we're going to see in reverse as those 4 crew members get ready to come home and end their long duration stay on board the station. As you heard, right now we're targeting May 4th for that return. Everything is going to depend on weather, so be sure to follow NASA and SpaceX as we're going to be bringing you live coverage of their entire journey, but then follow us on social media for real-time updates as we continue counting down to the end of the Crew-3 mission. So thank you again for watching. Go NASA, go SpaceX, go Crew-4, and pretty soon come home Crew-3. With that, we'll wrap it up, and we'll see you again real soon.
I got rice cooking in the microwave. Got a 3-day beard I don't plan to shave. And it's a goofy thing, but I just gotta say, hey, I'm a-doing alright. Yeah, I think I'll make me some homemade soup. Feeling pretty good, and that's the truth. It's neither drink nor drug induced. No, I'm just doing alright. And it's a great day to be alive. I know the sun's still shining when I close my eyes. There's some hard times in the neighborhood, but why can't every day be just this good? Oh, it's been 15 years since I left home. Said good luck to every seed I'd sown. Gave it my best and then I left it alone. I hope they're doing alright. Now I look in the mirror and what do I see? A lone wolf there staring back at me. Long in the tooth but harmless as can be. Lord, I guess he's doing alright. And it's a great day to be alive. I know the sun's still shining when I close my eyes. There's some hard times in the neighborhood, but why can't every day be just this good? Sometimes it's lonely, sometimes it's only me and the shadows that fill this room. Sometimes I'm falling, desperately calling, howling at the moon. Tattoo, or take my old Harley for a 3-day cruise. Might even grow me a Fu Manchu. And it's a great day